So we will definitely, go through a few content really to understand what is it, but at the same time, it should be more collaborative. That's where we thought, let's ask a question to you back as well. Who is a Scrum Master? So maybe think about your own organization where you are currently working. What do they do? Or think about what you have heard from others as well. So, end of the day, who is a who is a Scrum Master for you? So, what are we going to do? Let me get that answer from you guys. Just go to menti.com, and put this number. Go to menti.com, and the code you have to use is 48839, and start typing your word or a sentence, short sentence, answering the question, who is a Scrum Master? You can also submit multiple answers. Facilitator, servant leader, coach, and mentor. Servant leader who enacts the Scrum in a team. You could be very specific as well. He or she does this thing or did this thing to me. No wrong answer. So, teacher, servant leader of the team, the one who's a guide for the squad and coach for the well-being for the organization. Yeah, leader, but an unofficial mentor. Nice. Yeah, Menti code is 48839, which you see it on the multifaceted. Objective is to enact Scrum. Team is unblocked, a team coach. All dependencies are met. Team capacity is correctly planned. So helps the team to become highly productive and result oriented. So someone has written well-being for the organization. If we can elaborate a little bit on that. Not a postman. Yeah, we can also write, who he or she is not. Why not? You have to get your own coffee. So do I have 13 answers. I have some more answers. Simple terms, a coach or a mentor, coach the team. SM is a servant leader, facilitator, and protect from external influence. Anything else? What does the Scrum Guide say? Any thoughts around that? I know Preeti is almost ready to start the Scrum Master class. Yeah, person who is responsible for running Scrum team, effectively managing the capacity, yeah, for various resources, including allocation and task assignment. So they do that. Not a task manager or a Jira admin. Yeah, Jira is anonymous with Agile, right? So if you have Jira, you're Agile. So any other thoughts? Maybe let me give last 10 seconds. Okay, a good mix of a servant leader, not a postman, supports the development team, the product owner, and the organization to be agile as well. So Scrum Guide definitely talks about their responsibilities towards the development team, product owner, and the organization as well. Yeah, promoting and supporting Scrum as defined in Scrum Guide. Yeah, nice. So that's a good thought. Let's quickly move forward. And I have another question. Uh, Instead of me telling who is a Scrum Master at a scale, can you tell me, thinking about your organization again, think about what you
मीटिंग
have.
ज्वाइन
Yeah.
स्क्रम के ऊपर है अजाइल
Sorry.
हाँ
Okay. So let's think about the second question, which is of interest us for us today. Who's a Scrum Master at scale? Again, think about your own organization. Think about what you have heard as well. You would also be maybe practicing SAFe, Nexus, Less, or any of the scaling frameworks. They might have a different viewpoint or a different thought, if at all. So, who is a Scrum Master at scale? I will open my next one. So, next question for you. Again, in the menti.com, enter the code 410479, 410479. Same as SM in Scrum. Okay, nice. Anyone who wants to differ? I mean, if you say it's same as SM in Scrum, the webinar is finished. Okay, enabling team to minimize the dependencies with other team, thus helping to add value to product. Okay. Helps the team to manage dependencies with neighbors. Yeah. Enabler. Along with SM duties, works with teams in the release train to clear dependency and make it high performing. Help maintain cadence or the rhythm across the teams. Yeah, release trains normalization. Yeah, dependency mapping, Scrum of Scrum. One who
Hello, am
facilitates
I
team in
audible?
the. Sorry? One who facilitates team in program or portfolio teams as well. Okay. With the added responsibility of managing nexus of various different Scrum teams, maybe within their Scrum Master, he or she is a release manager. Okay, a different hat than a coach, mentor, facilitator. No difference. Nice. So, okay. So, if at all you saw certain things, that's my son. So, anything else? I have 12, 14 answers now. SM at program level. Okay. Facilitator in a peer planning. He will have same objectives as in other frameworks. Okay. Okay, let me allow the last 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Preet, looking at this, and I have two questions for you. I know you are
Uh-huh.
a professional Scrum trainer, so I think you should clarify my doubts as well. So
Okay.
the first question I have is, what do we mean by scale? Because I know you are an SPC, you also know about less. You have practical knowledge in multiple scaling frameworks. So when we talk about scale, what is that scale all about? Is it people? Is it technology? Is it something else? Right.
Hmm. So that's a good question. So before we get there, so I've got a couple of answers which have come in on the chat
Hmm.
for who's a Scrum Master at scale. It says it's kind of a mediator
Hmm.
who organizes the team and the product owner,
Okay.
and who can collab. The other one is who can collaborate with other teams and Scrum Masters
Hmm.
to deliver the product.
Product. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So see, the way I've always looked at scale was um, no, it's primarily from a business context, right? So
Okay.
now let's say you are an enterprise and you have a
Hmm.
small team wherein let's say the business concern that you have is you're
Hmm.
shrinking
Hmm.
R&D budget,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Right now we know most of the organizations, one of the main concerns is your R&D budgets are shrinking.
Hmm.
And now how do you run an experiment,
Hmm.
which is wherein you are in control of the expenses, the dollar spent.
Yeah.
Plus, how do you control the risks? You really don't want to run an experiment for too long to figure out that is not the right experiment to have run, right?
Okay.
So this is something, or maybe if it's a much smaller organization with fewer people, right?
Hmm.
Where
Hmm.
you're just trying
Hmm.
to get some structure or a sense in how is it that we should get the value back to our customers, right? So
Okay.
this is where I'm thinking this is where I think the requirement of Agile itself started coming into picture,
Okay.
right? But then now many of the enterprises that we see, they don't
Hmm.
work with one team, right? Now
Hmm. Hmm.
the R&D part can still remain in the big enterprises. You could have
Hmm.
a separate entity which is your R&D that could run in there. But if you were to
Okay.
look at it from an enterprise perspective, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So now let's say the kind of work that we do at an enterprise. I think I see quite a few familiar people in here, and I know
Hmm.
most of us are consultants and I've been associates. So now let's take digital transformation as an example,
Okay.
right? Or if it's a BFSI domain, let's talk about say core banking or
Hmm. Hmm.
mobile banking. So now if you look at that scale,
Hmm.
see imagine the number of people and the number of teams involved,
Yeah.
right? People is
Yeah.
one part, yes, but now if you
Yeah.
were to look at it, digital transformation, which basically means
Hmm.
multiple development teams are definitely going to be involved.
Hmm.
Then chances are multiple products would come together to provide a solution. So
Yeah.
that's where you could have. So you're talking about multiple product owners, multiple
Hmm.
development teams, multiple
Hmm.
Scrum Masters. But
Hmm.
then if you're in a regulated environment, chances are you have to go through your compliance. You
Yeah.
have your governance,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then how the marketing, the sales. So
Hmm.
now when you have to bring all of these different functions
Hmm.
together to achieve your end goal,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
This is wherein possibly frameworks like say Scrum or a minimal implementation of Kanban
Hmm.
still has I
Hmm.
really don't want to call it holes, but this is
Hmm.
where you would like to have a slightly more structure to see, okay, how do we
Hmm.
address
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
problems at
Hmm.
scale?
Yeah.
In this place is where I'm thinking both safe, less, nexus, all these
Hmm.
frameworks can come in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and everybody tries to solve the same problem,
Hmm.
safe looks at it, how do you bring all of these people together? And
Hmm.
and less also does it, but less looks at it by saying, no, can we descale? Or can we
Hmm.
descale the problem and then see? So
Yeah.
it's just different approaches. No,
Hmm.
based on the context. No, we will have
Hmm.
to decide what kind of a framework
Okay.
is suitable for us.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's how I would look at scale.
Okay. Nice. Any thoughts from the audience on the scale?
guys, just feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. And it's perfectly okay to say whatever Ashwini and Preet are saying is not entirely right.
Yeah, hi. My name's Puneet,
Yeah.
and I'm a Scrum Master for. I'm working at ANZ now.
Mm,
When Preet mentioned about scale, it seems that it's almost the same thing what we actually follow in SAFe.
mm,
So uh, I understand that it's only the different names, but the
mm.
functionality is overall the same,
Mm.
right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
I think Scrum Master on the whole,
Mm,
it's not only
mm,
safe or scale. Even
mm,
the Scrum.org and the Scrum Alliance
mm,
defines the same thing. So, do you
mm,
think that if there is any different explanation within this?
mm,
Because it's something like you have a
mm,
single path,
mm,
a single goal, but there are different paths in it.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's a nice
so
one.
so correct me
And
if I'm wrong, whether
yeah,
if that is
no,
actually
no,
the right
no,
way to
no.
say or not.
Yeah, I agree for that. And I think, I mean, that's a second question actually I had for Preet as well. Preet, I mean, let me know. Scrum Guide, I mean, when it was written out, was it written thinking only one team in mind? Do you think so, or is it different?
No, I don't think it was written with one team in mind. When the Scrum
Yep.
Guide, if
Yeah.
you really look at the evolution, if you were to look at it, Scrum started off with a very focus on the software development side.
Yes.
Right? So we
Yeah.
literally had a lot of focus on software,
Mm.
right? And so Puneet, your question was Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org, right? So if you really look at it, both were founded by the same guy, Ken Schwaber.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both of them, they really are aligned with the Scrum Guide.
Mm.
It is just that, see, I have attended both CSM and PSM trainings by multiple trainers. So what I've always felt is the CSM or the Scrum Alliance offering has been kind of focused more on product development, and Scrum.org tends to kind of focus more on the software development side. Right. Other than that, I don't think there is any much difference. Both are trying to tell you what the role of the Scrum Master is in a Scrum environment, wherein you're just trying to solve a complex problem.
Yeah.
Right. So Scrum Master role, irrespective of if you're listening it, if you're taking it from the Scrum Alliance or the Scrum.org, it's the same.
Yeah.
The Scrum Master remains.
Yeah.
And I think, as the slide says, primarily we focus on the Scrum Master role, wherein there's one. So the name itself, Scrum Master. I think that's where we have a lot of concern. Now, the master part there is to make it pretty obvious that you have mastered the Scrum framework, right? And it stops there. The mastery stops there. No, we don't extend it over people or any of those things. You're somebody who has mastered the Scrum. And now that you have mastered the Scrum framework, you're going to use your learnings and your expertise to help the other two roles in Scrum, which is primarily your product owners and the development team, to understand and implement Scrum. Right? Plus, when you're trying to do this, there are also other areas of the organization. Because Scrum cannot work in isolation, right? Even though you're calling yourself a Scrum team, you're part of a bigger ecosystem, right? So helping the organizations to understand what this empirical approach the entire development team is going through, and how as a system or as an ecosystem can you support your development side, right? So that's where, as a Scrum Master, you also have some services that you have to provide for the organization. So in the end, as a person who has mastered Scrum framework, I take on the responsibility of helping the Scrum team and the organization to understand and implement Scrum. Right. So that's how I would look at the Scrum Master role.
Preet, Suni, may I give 2 cents over here? If
Sure.
Thanks. The question, Ashwini, that was a really interesting question. That was Scrum written for a single team in mind or something like that?
Yeah.
Just quickly, very short, I will add to Preethesh that Scrum is a framework. It never be prescriptive, that it is how, right? And when we talk about one team, several team, networks of team, what Scrum Guide says is that essence of Scrum is small team, and that strength being one team, several team, and even networks of team. So that is what I will say, that Scrum can be used. And just to give example, the fighter plane company Saab, they are using Scrum for 5,000 team people. I'm talking about 5,000 people in teams. So we can see that Scrum is not prescriptive, and it can be used for one team and teams of teams, in fact.
Yes. So I totally agree. So there is nothing stopping us from using Scrum at any level. But then just to give you a sense of what many organizations struggle with, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to extend what slide that we have here, right? You say, as a Scrum Master, you serve as a product owner, right? And the Scrum Guide also says for every product, there is one product backlog and one product owner. Now, if you were to talk about, let's say you are having, say, 9 or 10 development teams, because you're working on a very complex product, right? And assuming that you have, let's say, 5 Scrum Masters. No? I'm not going with 1 Scrum Master per team. So let's assume you have 5 Scrum Masters. So now all the 5 Scrum Masters are going to service one product owner. So now, do you think the product owner is going to get overwhelmed? Or no? How are we going to? No, we have 5 Scrum Masters. No, we only have one product owner to go and service. So how are you going to handle that? Right?
Yeah.
So organization level also, right? So yeah, now you have one organization, possibly. So the challenges that each team faces could be slightly different, right?
Yeah.
So would each Scrum Master go and coach the organization differently?
Yeah.
So that's all, right? So all I'm saying is, if you are facing a problem at scale because of the number of teams or the number of different functional units that are getting involved, right? So as a Scrum Master, how do you go coach your marketing and sales team to move away from possibly a 6-month, 1-year big bang release approach to more of how do you talk to your customer and talk to him about incremental value delivery, right? Or how do you go talk to your HR folks to say, our individual performance measurements that we have in today is definitely not helping create the collaborative environment that we are trying to create. Right? Because individual performance is definitely going to create it's never collaborative, right? It's always a competitive environment. So now you have to go change it, right? So how are you going to coordinate the work of, say, 5 or 6 Scrum Masters? So right, so this is where it is. So maybe everybody comes with a different expertise. So it's just about, SAFe is just going to give you a structure about, okay, at this level, what do you do and how do you continue moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, I just took, what a SAFe framework, SAFe skilledagileFramework.com says around Scrum Master's responsibilities. I have not elaborated. I mean, each one has a 1-sentence explanation about what does it mean. I've not taken, but just marked in blue what is not really there in the Scrum Guide. And they're all about specifically about the SAFe's quality practices or supporting the SAFe adoption or a readiness for the agile release train events. In another framework, you could say it's a release planning event that you would do, right? I mean, it might not give you too much guideline around that, but here I do see certain guidelines around the leadership aspects, because you are now multi-team environment, and it's imperative that we address that part as well. If you ask me, is it not addressed in Scrum Guide? Definitely, it is addressed in the sense that service to the organization, we are calling certain things there as well. Effectiveness of Scrum, causing the change that increases the productivity of Scrum team and also the organization, right? So, in a nutshell, it's something like this. And we and Preet were talking about this part. I mean, we had our own differences. At the same time, we agreed on certain things as well. One thing I just talked about is resumes. How many of you have 2 or 3 type of resumes? A one pager versus 2 pager versus a detailed one.
You could use the reaction button on Zoom and give us a thumbs up if you have more than one.
Yes.
So yeah, Puneet has Hari. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at quite a bit of people do have multiple resumes.
Yeah. So, I mean, does it mean that as a person you are changing for situation or changing in every dimension? Does it really mean that one, or does it mean anything else? Having a one-pager resume versus a 6-pager resume.
Well, I think it's more of an attraction rather than what's in the content.
Yeah, exactly, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is, right? As a consultant, I would prefer to send my one-pager neatly done document than a 6-pager, right? So I want to get it what you say listed first, right? Maybe, right? I mean, that's my intention there. And if I'm thinking about a 6-pager resume, that's mostly a follow-up where the recruiter has asked, can I also know what are all the results that you have driven to success, right? So can I have that resume? So I would see each of the frameworks as, again, I'm not saying Scrum Guide is 1-pager or Safe is 6-pager or anything of that sort, because I mean, in fact, I didn't think when I start putting what Scrum Guide says it is going to occupy this much space. It was interesting for me to see it was taking this much of a space. In fact, I mean, Safe also, if I take, it is also going to take only around the same amount of space or a little bit more. Nexus and less, if I take, again, the roles and responsibilities, it's also going to take around the same amount of space on an outset. But when I read through each one of them, while there are certain nuances, like initially Preet called out, if you are in a regulated environment, that ifs are too many, right? So our thought is any framework is written with a context. Any framework is written with a context and certain things to tackle and take care of. If you look at Scrum Guide, the origins of it, 1995, or I mean even before to that, uh, the thought was there to really have a quick and easy framework, a process guideline to really help people achieve value quickly. And uh, if I think now about SAFe or any other framework at scale, we are not just looking at those aspects. We know that those aspects can be solved or they have some answers. Now, how am I going to think about the compliances, regulations, multi-geography, multiple teams working together, business being somewhere else than the development team, Scrum Master being somewhere else? Maybe for COVID, we'll have one more framework as well. Who knows? Yeah. Any thoughts from the audience? And if you ask me in a nutshell, it's an anticlimax. Scrum Master at scale also is the same as Scrum Master. If you look at the Scrum Guide itself carefully, we are already calling out those soft skills. I mean, those leadership skills in a Scrum Master. I mean, we are already calling out, may not be explicitly but implicit in the nature, right? So again, if you look at the supporting documents and evidences that we have through our state of agile reports or DevOps reports, whatever the reports that we see in our industry, for me it boils down to the same thing. Only thing is we are now becoming more aware to the context that we are in. Maybe we are expanding in some areas, saying that okay, maybe these are the quick guidelines which are working in the industry. You might want to try it out.
Right. So, so just to add on to what Ashwini just said, so see, if you were to look at a Scrum Master working in a Scrum team, right? So let's assume we're for the sake of discussion, it's a Scrum Master working with one team. So when you have one team, then chances are the role of the Scrum Master is to kind of help align your work with the sprint goal, right? So that's the alignment that we talk about when we talking at a Scrum level. But now, when the same Scrum Master is part, because SAFe comes in when we say, no, you have to have a minimum of 50 people or more to even start bringing in the SAFe context, right? So when you're talking about multiple development teams, chances are it could be the teams are from multiple product lines also, right? Or multiple projects, so however you look at it, right? So now if all of them have to work together to become successful, right? Don't you think it's imperative to build an alignment across teams? And this is not just to manage dependencies, no? But it's also about, are we progressing towards the organizational vision and goal, right? So that's about one part is about building alignment, which is same, but now possibly across teams and at a higher level, all right? And then you talk about, how do you make sure that all the different products and projects are all on track and you're not straying away from the set goals, right? Because chances are you might need to course correct, right? So for all of these things, transparency is really key, right? Transparency in terms of, say, the work in progress, the dependencies that are there, the impediments that needs to be handled, and all of those things, right? So again, we are talking about transparency. The other major concern, especially when dealing with this amount of scale, is quality, right? Because when you're having multiple teams output coming together to create a value for your customer, there is no way you can think about quality as, quality cannot be an afterthought, right? It has to be a thought through process and at each level, right? So we again need somebody who's really, making sure that quality is built in, right from the beginning and not as a afterthought at the later stage, right? So earlier we used to talk about, potentially releasable product increment, which again was talking about what? Built-in quality, right? By the end of the sprint, you really are expecting to have a usable product. Here also we are saying the same thing, but now that you have multiple teams, you have to call it out, right? Now, once you have built this strong alignment, hyper transparency, built-in quality, what does this help us enable? It helps us enabling decentralizing the decision making, right? So there is no bureaucracy which comes into your way of either your value delivery or your innovation, right? So if you really look at it, what we really talk about as 4 core values at a SAFe level, right? Alignment, transparency, built-in quality, right? And program execution, which is again, that's where I was saying, once you have decentralized decision making, it's part of your program execution itself. Right? So now, for this, you definitely have somebody who may not be completely involved in the delivery cycle or the business cycle, but then who's enabling, this entire teams, and it cannot be done by one person. So you will have multiple people. So you have to have some amount of coordination among them, right? So that is the reason why I think when Ashwini was also saying the lines that are in blue, right, which is about I think 4 or 5, right, which is what SAFe is calling out separate, which may not have a mention in the Scrum guide, right? Because it's just that thing. Scrum says if you are having multiple teams, you need to build an alignment, right? You need to have transparency. So SAFe is just giving that structure on how this can be achieved. Is having structure bad? I really don't think so, right? Because even if you were to look at it that way, even Scrum at its level, at a team level, it definitely comes with its own set of rules, right? It has its own roles. And you say, if you don't have the 11 essentials, you cannot call yourself a Scrum team also, right? The 3 roles, the 5 events, and the 3 artifacts are a must, without which you cannot call it a Scrum team, right? Does that mean if you're not doing it, can you be empirical? Maybe, maybe not, right? But this definitely gives you a minimal structure to run a team. So SAFe is a minimal structure to help you coordinate the work of multiple teams coming together to create value for your customers, right? So this is the reason why I think irrespective of the role of the Scrum Master, be it at a Scrum level or at a SAFe level, you're not really finding it too much of a difference. Possibly a little more because of the scale. Yeah, so that's my take on no, Scrum Master at scale. So any thoughts or any questions?
Aswini, may I ask one question over here? It comes
Yes.
a couple of times in my mind. Basically, we say SAFe is a framework, right? But as per my experience, a framework outline the things. That is what and why, not the how. But at multiple places, I see that SAFe become too prescriptive. Like for example, even it provide PI agenda for 2 days, that what will be your PI agenda. Don't you feel that become very prescriptive and it is telling how to do and a framework? Shall we say that basically? Because might be I want to do it in a different way. I want to change agenda, but it be very prescriptive to me. Might be I'm missing something.
Yeah, see, SAFe gives you a template again saying that this is a 2-day agenda. These are the things you need to take care of it. Can I interchange one of the things there? Definitely you can do it. And if, in fact, I mean, if you go through the SPC class, we talk about a 2.5-a-day agenda and a 3-day agenda as well, and you are geographically distributed, right? So again, it's a framework, it's a guideline, not to be taken as maybe a text which is set in the stone as well, right? Definitely, I mean, you can tweak and adjust, but idea is these are the core things. When you have put 100 people in a room, you don't want to tell them do whatever you want for the next 2 days, right? Rather, you would say, okay, I will set a context. This is where your business owner talks about what's the state of the business. Then you have a product manager talking about what are the set of features we are talking about. Then the architect talking about how do we maintain all of them together. Then you plan it up, and while planning, it kind of gives you certain guidelines around. Say, I do plan today. Can we have a management review? Again, when I say management review, it's about product managers, business owners coming and seeing, is it in track with what we are expecting? And on the second day, can we churn that one again and see, okay, we have done a draft planning, can we complete it? Can we manage the risk? So at scale, it becomes evident that you will have to, those 2 days, you will have to use it very well so that when you go out of the room, you have something tangible for you to take it back and I mean start executing. Can I tweak some of the items on the 2-day agenda? I mean, why not? Why not is my answer.
Thanks, Aswini. Might be I will take it offline sometime because
Exactly.
in my
Yeah.
way it even
So-
tell number of hours, right? That for this time to this time, product vision and business context. Might be that is guideline, but you know how guideline are treated in the traditional world. They become contract, right? And then every management say, guys, within this time you have to finish this activity. This is what SAFe is saying, right? So anyway,
So-
might we can take some offline. This is off the track question.
All right. So Sunil, let me just help you connect something. No, did you also know that the Scrum Guide says your sprint planning cannot go beyond 8 hours?
Yeah.
It says your daily Scrum has to be done within 15
That
minutes.
is time boxing, Preet. Only
Correct.
thing what
So
it
that's
says.
again. So
No, there is difference, Preet. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun. There is huge difference. There they specify start this time and finish this time. Scrum never says, it says maximum 8 hours, right? It never says that start this time, finish this time. Start your day 8 o'clock or finish your day 6 o'clock in
correct.
evening.
So Sunil, that's where I think Ashwini said, no, there is a 2.5-day agenda, there's a 3-day agenda, wherein these times are not mandatory. So that's just a template, right? And again, see, for self-organizations to happen, you really need to set boundaries, right? Self-organization cannot happen without boundaries. So if you really look at the agenda of a PI planning, right? So when you say the business owners comes and talks, gives you, the first thing is, what are you doing? You're literally setting a business boundary. You're saying for the next 3 months, this is what as a business we need to achieve, right? So this is primarily the way I look at it. You're really setting a business agenda or a business boundary, which is followed by a technical person coming in and then talking about the architecture and all of that stuff. What are we doing? We are kind of setting the technical boundaries, right? And then possibly if the RTE is talking about the safe or any of those process related stuff, you're giving the third crucial boundary, which is your process side, right? So once you have these boundaries set, then you're letting the teams decide how they want to do it. So your self-organization is still happening there, right? So earlier with the time boxes, and say we are talking about the product owner, and then we talk and then come up with a sprint goal, right? So if you really look at it, see the concept wise, you're not seeing a huge change. But then when the size goes up, right, you might need slightly more, what do you say, more effort in terms of collaboration, right? The communication, because now it's all an overhead, right? Scrum says 3 to 9 people because you want to keep the collaboration and the communication overheads to a minimum. But now your product itself is so complex that you need more than 50 people to build it. So the other thing, even if you're looking at it from a Scrum perspective, what you've also accepted is the complexity which comes with scale. So that basically means you have agreed there is a coordination and a communication overhead. Right? So this is where the SAFE is coming in as a framework to give you some guidelines around how these can be handled.
And in fact, if I can add a practical perspective, say I have 10 teams working in a safe way of working, and they have to be synchronized as well. It's not just the rhythm that they have to be synchronized. I mean, everybody has to start on the same day and end on the same day. So when I was working with Target, I mean, in one of the programs, we used to have this PA planning every once in 10 weeks. So we have the calendar available for the next 1 year, because those are the 2 days which I know that PA planning is happening in the IP sprint or wherever. So I know that these are the 2 days. So January 25th and 26th, I have the PA planning. Then next PA planning is on, say, I'm just throwing up the times. April 5th and 6th, I have the next PA planning. Okay, so, and also it's like every alternative 10 weeks it is coming up, right? So the moment that is there, our planning for even the travels, because if most of the teams, they used to be made co-located. People used to travel from US to here, or people used to travel from India to US. So upfront what are those 2 days, right? Again, structure is, say, morning this time to evening this time I'm having the call, or I'm having this rooms to book as well. The room booking becomes rooms don't understand that there is a self-organizing, right? They need to be booked, right? Facility needs to be booked. So that's where, I mean, these guidelines help you to organize yourself at scale. When you are 100 people together trying to accomplish something, these guidelines definitely help you to achieve the value. You are, as Preet mentioned, you are trying to avoid those communication collaboration overheads by way of structuring it out in a time box. And I would again reiterate, SAFE is not really prescriptive on the time boxes. On the time of, say, you have to start at 7 o'clock and end at 6 o'clock. In fact, if you see the management reviews, it talks about being for 1 hour. But there are management reviews where I have attended from 7 o'clock to till midnight. When the teams have not planned well, or when there are so many impediments we are seeing on the board, the management review goes on till midnight. And management has to come back again next day morning at 8 o'clock to brief what they have found it as well.
Thanks, Aswani. Thanks, Preet. That's a fantastic insight. Thank you for that.
Most welcome.
I'd like to add one thing. I'm working as a Scrum Master for SAFE. So when we are in this SAFE, we have to keep in mind of PI objectives as well.
Exactly.
It is not only sprint goals. We have to align our sprint goals to complete PI goals.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things. And Aswani, I had one question. If I'm not jumping, can we cover normalization as well? Because that is something that bothers me a lot of time. So can we have some time for normalization? You can go ahead with your program now. We can discuss about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we will talk about normalized estimation as well. Why do we start with 1 day, 1 person? one person gets 1 point, right? So
Yeah.
we can talk about it. It's a nice topic, definitely. Preet, one more thing for your backlog.
Yeah. I love that. I love that topic too.
Yeah.
So for other folks, who are still on the session, purely from the agenda that we had, Scrum Master at scale, are there any other thoughts or anything that we can discuss? We have another 5 minutes, or if you have questions, maybe this is a good time to discuss the questions also.
Yes, Prit. Well, I have a question here. This is Puneet again. Yes. Now, well, we have certain tools. So yes, the example I have to go. I have to take the example of Jira. Now, we have been told that your burn down charts needs to be in sync, etc., 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 and so on. So this is the big challenge. When we have the time slot and when we have the burn down chart, sometimes it might not sync, and sometimes it could be the human error as well. So I just wanted to know whether if we follow all these ceremonies and the tasks closure on time, do you think that we can have the right burn down charts in any tools?
So Puneet, I'm not sure I understood the question. Are you talking in terms of how well you can estimate any task? Is that the underlying question, or?
Yes.
Okay. So I think then the quick answer is no, right? Because that's where I think all talks about the agile frameworks come into picture. This is because we have realized that we are doing complex work. So if you were to go by complexity metrics, say the Stacy chart, for example, right? It very clearly says a complex work is defined by the fact that you have more unknowns than knowns. So irrespective of what plans you're putting in place, it is with the limited amount of nodes that you have, and the variations or the unknowns could come either from your requirements, it could come either from your implementation, or it could come from the people, right? So that's the reason why we are defining it as complex. So if you're trying to get your estimations correct, right? Because what I usually tell in my class is, when people say realistic estimation, in my mind, it's very similar to the oxymoron saying happily married. Right? So I say, like, either you can be happy or you can be married. Right? Similarly, you can either get a realistic or you can get an estimate. The realistic, is it possible? Yeah, possible if you're doing a simple work, right, where everything is known. But then when you have so much of unknowns, there is no way you're going to get your estimates correct. As the reason, so I think that it's tied down to the previous question too, right? Normalization. What do? We use a wideband Delphi estimation techniques, right? That's where the story point comes in, right? And now, I think one of my other colleague Naveen, he was also talking about a similar situation wherein his example was, see, when he was a kid, his dad always used to ask him, what percentage mark have you scored? Right? So he has to give that exact number. And then it's usually followed up, even if I give you the right one number, it's usually followed up by saying, are you in the top 5 or top 10? Right? Now, if you say I'm in the top 5, then the next question is like, no, are you better than Sharmaji's son? Right? So this is our way of estimating how good his father's way of estimating his son. So he was also all thrilled about it. And when he thought he was going to do the same thing with his son, the schooling changed it from the exact percentile to grading. So now his son comes back and says, I scored an A. So now Naveen has no clue what that means. Right? Okay, that's all fine, but what percentage mark did you get? He says, what do you mean, Dad? It's A. I scored an A grade. No, you tell me what exactly does it mean, right? Because you're not used to it. Something new, right? So this is where, so what they have done is they have also started doing some wideband stuff. So anybody who gets anywhere between, say, 70 to 75 come under the grade A, right? If you're getting something above 75 or 80, you're put under one grade called as A+, right? So this is exactly what we are also doing with the estimates in here. Earlier, we were trying to do it with the exact number, 3-man day, or 3-man months. But then, but then that doesn't give you that flexibility at all, right? And then you're usually held responsible with a gun on your head saying, no, you said 2 days. but a complex work, right? So that's where we are trying to bring in that flexibility. Scientifically, if you want to look at it, there's no Delphi and the wideband Delphi estimation techniques. Story point just gives you that wideband. So even then, even if you look when SAVE says, okay, one story point equal to 8 hours. So does that mean? So what are you saying? One story point, it could take up to 8 hours to finish.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it cannot get over earlier, or it might extend. Right?
Yeah.
Because with whatever data you have today, it looks like, yeah. So it's just, so is it really wrong? So I don't think you should look at it saying that we are trying to convert story points to hours. In my mind, I think it's mostly the other way around. We are so comfortable with hours. Now we are trying to convert it to story points by saying, okay, if I think it is a task which is going to take me somewhere like somewhere between 6 to 8 hours, let me just give it one story point. Right. So this is how I would look at it and how I would connect these concepts, you know.
Yeah, Preet, I have one question again.
Yeah.
Just before you jump the question, Preet, I really love that. Thank you. It's fantastic one.
Oh, that's not mine. That's why I just flicked it from Naveen.
Yeah, I know it's from Naveen, but even I quote this example number of times. It's really lovely example and very insightful.
Yeah.
That was really humorous as well as something that we can relate to. Now, Preet, I have one question. When we do PI planning, we take into account normalized points, that this is our story points, and based on that, we do all the calculations, whatever amount of work that we need to pull in PI. But suppose my team is having a velocity, let's say my team has a capacity of 30, but my team's velocity is 40 or 45. So what do I do in sprint 2, from sprint 2 onwards? What do I do? Do I go with normalization, or do I take into account the increased velocity?
See, the concern with the velocity itself is, you know, it's an average number.
Yeah.
Right. So over a period of time, I think the focus should, see, I think at no point in time should we forget the fact that, you know, the work that we are doing is complex. So rather than trying to get our estimates correct, right, it should be about, you know, see, with whatever we know, this is what we think it is. Let's get started, because until and unless we get started, we really do not know the complexity involved, right? So, but then having said that, you just cannot get into, you know, without having an estimate. I'm not saying that you cannot. Now, if you're going with a flow-based framework, you know, you really are not going to worry too much, right? They're saying, okay, I pick this work. Once this is done, I'll move on to the next work. That's also possible, right? But then when you're looking at it from a Scrum perspective, you are trying to get some sense saying, you know, based on our experiences, based on our understanding of the problem as in terms of requirements, the implementation, right? The three things that you use for your story point. You're saying this looks like a 2-day job, somewhere between like 2 to 3 days of work. And that's all that you're doing. So sometimes your guess could be right, and sometimes you might overestimate, sometimes you might underestimate. But then, you know, if you really believe in the law of averages, chances are in the first sprint you did 45, chances are the next sprint you might think you're going to do 30, but you could end up doing 15, right?
Yep.
It's not just that it's always on, you know, doing it. So situations like this, I would say, you know, let's still use the story points, the velocity as, you know, what it was meant to be. It is a measure of your predictability, right? So that's how I would look at it. Just an average number.
Yeah. And if you ask me the analogy, whoever is from Bangalore or bigger cities, right? We believe that we can go to office in next 1 hour, right? So we start with that assumption. So most of the days you will be wrong, but you still believe you can go with 1 hour, right? So
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay. Do we have something else that you guys would like to discuss? I know we are 4 minutes over the time. But then I don't have a problem. Maybe another 5-10 minutes more.
Yeah.
So if you have sure, go ahead, Hari.
Thank you. It would be helpful if we get any learning opportunity for SPC. It is not related to our current today's chapter, today's point, but it would be helpful if we have any contact points for SPC. The participants will get happier to get to know that. Thanks.
Hari, I did have some problem hearing you clearly. Ashwini, did you get that?
I really didn't get that. I mean, he was talking about, are you talking about a SPC class or contact for SPC class? If I got it right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You are right, actually.
Yeah. Hari, you can contact me. I also co-teach SPC classes. So.
Sure.
Yeah. Or if you can just put in your chat window your coordinate on LinkedIn, I can connect to you as well.
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like I think we've kind of touched all the points, I guess, because I don't see anybody else having any other question. So in which case, I think thank you so much. It was really good having this discussions for us.
Yeah.
So at the end of this thing, you will definitely receive an email from Lohit, who's also in the call right now, and who along with Shekhar is the backbone for running this entire event, right? So these are the guys who are helping us host the Safe Thursday events. So he will send you a feedback link as well. So please do write in, how you felt about this particular webinar, and also please feel free to write in about what else you would like us to provide in terms of a Safe Thursday platform, right? Is there any specific areas that you would like us to talk about, or is there anything specific that you're looking for? We are more than happy to collaborate and help you guys out with that. Yeah.
We can have dependency, one session on dependency management.
Sure. So if you just need to write it. So based on the interest, I think we will also have a backlog. We will prioritize it.
Yeah.
More the stakeholders, we will prioritize it higher, and then we will work down that product backlog.
Yeah, Preet, I have one question. So I am new in SAFe. So do we have anything planned for basic of SAFe, so that like me and other folks who are not much aware about SAFe?
Yeah. Come for my SA class. So jokes apart, Subodh. So if there is anything specific that you guys are looking for, right? Why don't you just write in, and then possibly anyway you have my contact details, right?
Yes, sir.
An email, or we can talk, right? And then we can see what is it that we can do.
Sure.
Maybe Preet, we can also run a quick essential SAFe recap webinar as
we could do that. Yeah. We can definitely do that.
Yeah, that will better. That will good.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah. Sorry, team. Thanks a lot for sharing the knowledge. This is Azhar. Can you just let us know when will be that webinar with respect to basic Agile?
Sure.
Basic.
Yeah. So this will definitely be part of one of the upcoming webinars. That's for sure.
Okay.
So Azhar, have you joined the meetup group by any chance?
Yeah, I have joined.
So what we will be definitely posting up. So Lohit and Shekhar and we are trying to work so that we are thinking of coming up with a calendar, right? So that we can publish 3 or 4 in advance, right? So that people get to decide, which is of interest, and then there's no surprise saying that I have to wait till Friday to figure out what's coming up next. So we will try and put that in place soon, and we will definitely work it out. Even otherwise, the fact that you are part of the meetup group, you will get some notification as and when we are coming up with a Safe Thursday event. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So thank you, folks. Thank you so very much. It was definitely a good discussion, at least for me, and I'm hoping you guys also got some value out of all these discussions that we had. And Ashwini, thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to having. I look forward for more such sessions in the future too. Right?
Yeah, sure.
So thank you. And we will be uploading the recording of this session into our YouTube channel, and you will get the link to the recording also from Lohit in a short while. Yeah. So thank you very much. I hope to see you guys soon. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all.